All right, let's talk about something so many of us go through. At some point, you might find yourself becoming a caregiver for someone you love. You jump in, ready to help, thinking you know what it'll be like. But the reality of that journey, it's often so much more complicated than we could ever guess. Today, we're going to explore that gap, the one between what we expect and what really happens. And this quote just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It perfectly frames what we're talking about today. For a caregiver, this isn't just a small difference. It can be a huge source of stress and, honestly, a lot of confusion. It's in that space, between what we thought it would be and what it actually is, that the real story unfolds.
So, to really get what this gap feels like, let's make it personal. Let's talk about Angela. Her story is one that I think will sound really familiar to a lot of caregivers out there.
When Angela's mom got her Parkinson's diagnosis, Angela, of course, stepped right up. She was ready to be her mom's main caregiver. And, like most of us would, she thought, okay, I can handle this. It'll be pretty straightforward. It was all about love and just helping out. In her head, the job was simple. She'd help make some meals, drive her mom to doctor's appointments, keep her company. Seemed totally manageable, right? Maybe a little tough, but something she could definitely fit into her life. But what happened next was like a tidal wave. Almost overnight, she wasn't just a daughter helping out anymore. She was a full-on care coordinator, a medication manager. She was the one who had to translate all the confusing medical jargon and basically connect all the dots in this incredibly complex puzzle. And this slide just lays it all out so clearly. Look at the left side, expectation. Simple tasks, right? Helping with meals, driving. But then you look at the right side, reality, and whoa, it's a whole different world. You're suddenly managing legal stuff, financial stuff, and becoming a fierce advocate. That jump from one column to the other, that's where the real journey begins. Okay, so let's dig into that reality column a little more, because this new role forces you to navigate what can only be described as a maze, the whole healthcare and social services system. Now, here's something that's absolutely crucial to understand. You, the caregiver, become the glue that holds everything together. You just can't assume that the specialist is talking to the family doctor or that the hospital is talking to the community agency. Nope. More often than not, you're the central hub, making sure everyone is on the same page. So think about it this way. You've got community agencies that provide what you might call horizontal support. They're in it for the long haul. Then you've got an emergency room, which is totally vertical. It's focused on one single problem right here, right now. And guess who has to bridge that gap? You do. And even though we hear all this talk about patient-centered care, in practice, it's often the caregiver who has to push and fight to make that a reality. And this brings us to a massive point of frustration. I mean, after all the work you're doing, research shows that in places like hospitals, caregivers can get treated like they're just another visitor. Stuck with the same visiting hours, their knowledge totally ignored. It's just wrong. You are a vital partner in care, not a guest. So on top of that practical maze, there's a whole other landscape to get through. And this one is emotional. This is the part that can really blindside even the most prepared caregiver. Experts who've studied this have identified these three really powerful emotions that tend to follow caregivers around. They've called them the three shadows. And just knowing what they are is a huge step toward making sure they don't completely take over. The first shadow is grief. And look, it's not just about what might happen in the future. It's about the sadness you feel right now. It's grieving for the person they were before they got sick. It's grieving for the relationship you used to have. And this is a big one, it's grieving for the loss of your own freedom and the life you had before. And right alongside that sadness, you often find the second shadow, anger. It's that raw frustration with the illness itself, with the confusing system, with just being so bone-tired all the time. And here's the really tough part. Sometimes that anger can even bubble up and be directed at the person you're caring for. That's a really hard thing to feel and even harder to admit. This ancient piece of wisdom really gets it. It acknowledges that feeling angry is just part of being human. It's a natural response. The emotion itself isn't the problem. The real challenge is what we do with it, how we process it so it doesn't cause more harm. And that leads us right into the third shadow, guilt. It's been called a perfect repeating circular experience. And isn't that just the perfect description? You feel angry, and then you feel guilty because you felt angry. You feel guilty that you're not doing enough, or maybe you're feeling guilty for even thinking about getting outside help, especially if you made a promise that you'd always do it all yourself. It's this powerful, vicious cycle. So when you're facing this practical maze and these emotional shadows, it can feel like way too much. But I want you to hear this. You are not powerless. There are absolutely tools and strategies that can help you find your footing and get the support you need. Let's talk about 3 critical things you can do right now. First, get organized. Seriously, a simple notebook where you track appointments, meds, and questions can be a total lifesaver. Second, be an advocate. Don't ever be afraid to ask questions and keep asking until you get a clear answer. And third, please stay connected. Isolation is the enemy here. Find a support group, online or in person. Lean on your friends. You just can't do this all by yourself.
And here are a few more things to keep in your back pocket. Try to acknowledge those feelings, the grief, the anger, when they show up. Don't push them away. And please, let go of the idea that you have to be the perfect caregiver. That person does not exist. Be honest with yourself about the guilt, and for those of you who have faith, lean into it. It can be an incredible source of strength.
For anyone who finds strength in their faith, this is such a powerful reminder. You don't have to carry this enormous weight all on your own. It's basically an invitation to let go of some of that anxiety and trust that you're not going through this alone. So we'll end with a question, just for you. Just understanding this gap between expectation and reality is a huge first step. The next one is taking action. So after hearing all this, what's just one small, practical thing you could do this week? Just one thing to make your journey a little more manageable or bring you a little more peace.